Good evening. When we were given the chance to record the One Show backstage at the rehearsals with the Rolling Stones, well, how could we turn that down?
Exactly. Now, Charlie is practicing his drums behind that wall.
Yep.
Mick and Ronnie are downstairs chilling out. And sitting opposite us is Mr. Keith Richards.
Oh, my goodness me. Only Keith Richards.
Thank you.
How are you, Sir Keith?
Very well, actually, yeah.
Have you ever had the letter about the knighthood?
No, they've not mentioned it lately.
Would you say yes?
I wouldn't contemplate it, no.
No?
No.
All right. Plain and simple, to start off with, what's it been like being in the Rolling Stones? 50 years, come on.
It feels like 100, actually. No, all joking aside, it's quite amazing. You don't think about these years, you know. I mean, I think the beginning of this year, he was starting to get some fans, you know. Well, what are you going to do? So finally had a meeting and said, what are we going to do, man? You know, we have to do something. And then it built up from people out there that actually made this all happen.
And when you say, you know, we hear a lot about these meetings, it's around somebody's houses, on a plane. How do these meetings happen?
We meet in meeting rooms. And it's also ludicrously formal, you know, and there's a table with a pen pad and a couple of lawyers, and then it usually degenerates into like a farce.
And you say yes.
Yeah, and then we
So
sign off, and that's that, you know.
But it's amazing, really, Keith, that you can remember any of this. Didn't you top a poll as the next celebrity most likely to die?
I was there. I think I was at the top of the charts longer than most people on that particular category, yeah. But I've dropped off the perch a long time ago.
Well, you're looking all right
because I
now.
didn't die, you know. No, there's times when I wake up in the morning and I don't believe I've woken up, let alone anything else, you know.
But what was that period like then?
It's kind of hazy. You know, I mean, I've got a good memory, but there is that spot. There's a bit hazy. But in actual fact, I functioned perfectly well. And I was being harassed first with my own demons and then the cops. And, you know, so it was kind of turmoil, really. But I got used to it, you know.
Did having the Beatles there at the same time, did it make you the band you are?
There was no competition between the bands per se, you know, but in the greater world, the Beatles were the Fab Four, you know. As I say, that's wearing the white hat. And so the only other place to go is to wear the black hat, you know. And at the same time, we were pretty natural. And I think really all we did is we didn't showbiz ourselves up.
A pivotal point in the Stones story is when you all scampered off to France together. And here's what you had to say about it.
I think in France I felt a sort of lifting of the weights, which I didn't realize was on me in England. 9, 10 at night until 7 or 8 in the morning, you know. The idea of playing a note before the sun went down was ludicrous. And, I mean, it's like Dracula time.
Well, we were actually basically forced economically out of the country because I think they'd given up on trying to put us in jail, and it just wasn't working, you know, and they scratched their heads, and they just didn't like us, I guess. Their idea was to split us up, which they did, but they, at the same time, kept us together, you know. We just learned how to work on a global scale, I guess, you know.
Now, Rolling Stones are obviously big business, big money. If you had to send a member of the band out to bat for you, negotiating-wise, who would you send out?
I'd say definitely Mick, but definitely with Charlie in reserve.
The quiet assassin. Okay, let's talk about Ronnie Wood, of course, your other arm, if you like.
Yeah.
Do you agree that had Ronnie not joined the band when he did, the Rolling Stones would never have got to be the supergroup they were in the 80s?
Well, definitely without Ronnie Wood, we wouldn't have had the cohesion and to stick together, you know. It was, he came along just at the right time, and you know, with a guy like that around, you got to hang around because he's so damn funny, you know.
He's a lovely man, isn't he?
Yeah, he's cool, man. There's a great feeling in the band right now, and kind of weird, and you keep waiting for the bubble to burst. You know.
Right, Keith Richards, everyone, there you go. 3 more to come.
OK, we asked you for your stories about you and the Stones, and here's what you said.
My story's about Mick. I'm #1 fan of the Stones, and Mick, I still think you're tasty. Let's spend the night together. In 1963, a young girl in Surrey was starting a fan club, and I got my membership card back, and I was absolutely delighted to see I'm #1. I got the opportunity to meet them, and then my biggest thrill was kissing Mick Jagger. I didn't wash my lips for weeks after that.
My story is about Keith in the 1970s. One sunny bank holiday, I went down to West Wittering, where he has a home, to get a copy of a biography signed.
Pleased to meet you. Hope you guessed my name.
Keith was there, that was the good news. Bad news was he had a rifle with him and a bottle of Jack Daniels. An interesting combination. So I'm looking down the barrel, with my hands in the air, clutching my book. And there can't be many people who could point a gun at you and you still end up loving them. Keith Richards is a diamond geezer.
My story is about Ronnie Wood. We was at school together. He was a brilliant artist at school, a drawer. My husband bought me this beautiful painting of Pete Townsend and Keith Moon at The Who that Ronnie done. I never ever thought I'd ever get one of your drawings. It's my pride and joy. I love it, absolutely love it.
New Musical Express.
And here he is, the hero of the film, Mr. Charlie Watts.
Charlie.
Yes.
We heard about those tickets being given away for a gig that was here when it was called the Empire Pool.
Yeah.
Now, you've hired out Wembley Arena just to rehearse in.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing to be able to do.
Yes, it's very extravagant. In fact, we had this place this was our catering when we played at the stadium.
No way.
So we've actually gone down in scale,
The
actually.
whole thing?
Yeah. When I was a young, a boy, I used to come here ice skating, and I didn't actually ice skate. I used to watch all the others going there, and ice hockey. So I know this part of the world since I was 5.
Wow.
Well, we have a little picture here when you were quite young. Have you seen this picture before, Charlie?
No.
Okay.
I drew that on the front there.
Did you?
Yeah, that was supposed to be Buddy Rich. That's the first drum kit my dad bought me.
How
We're in
old
a
are you in
pub.
that picture?
12.
OK, that was taken by a Nick Rayner, who also
Yes.
played in your first public appearance.
How did he get a camera? I know, I remember Nick Rayner. Yeah, he lived for the 4 doors away from me.
When they're putting live dates back together, like you are now, is the call to you always the trepidatious one? Would you ever think about it, say, I'm not quite sure? Or...
We're only doing 5 shows up to Christmas. But to do those 5 shows, you have to rehearse as much as you do if you're doing 150 to get to the same... You know, if you don't play a lot, which we don't, your hands, you have to get used to playing that.
But this seems like quite a lot of effort for 5 shows.
It is
Charlie.
quite a lot of effort.
So-
It's bloody hard work, actually. The rehearsals always are harder.
Are there plans then past these 5 shows?
Oh, well, that, you know, my thing is if we're standing at Christmas, then we'll see, you know. But this is, you know, it's the 50 thing, and I always said to Mick that, you know, we're known for playing, so we should play something. And it's got into 5 now, so, and at the end, by Christmas, who knows what we decide.
What do you go off and do, though, when you're not on
Nothing.
tour? Nothing.
But I never do anything. So I don't know. You know, my wife always said, you know, you don't do anything. And I don't actually. So when I say I'm leaving, Keith says, what are you going to do? And you sort of sit there and think, what am I going to do? So it's kind of, you're caught, really.
Do you think you were miscast in the Rolling Stones? Do you think you should
Well,
have
I
been...
should have been the singer.
No, you
If you
don't.
heard me sing.
No, do you think you should have been in another band altogether?
No, but you know, Chris, I've never really, you know, I've never fallen into celebrity rock star thing. I've always looked at other people who aren't in that world with much more awe than rock and roll star.
Charlie or Ace. Charlie Watts, everyone! The Quiet Stones.
Now, it's not just on stage that people raise hell. Here's Ruth Goodman remembering one F1 driver that took rock and roll to the racetrack.
All right.
In this house on the appropriately named The Drive in Sutton lived a child who did just that.
Racer, and now a rock and rollin' Ronnie Wood.
We are rolling, yeah, it's rolling.
Now, where we'd like to start with you, Ronnie, if that's okay, is you getting offered a job in the Rolling Stones. Maybe the best job offer a guitarist could wish for?
Yeah, it's a great job offer, actually. Not bad, you know. It's all right. I feathered my nest. Jeff Beck said to me yesterday, I'm in the Rolling Stones for a number. And I said, so am I. and Bill Wyman said, so am I.
Now, did you realise at the time how much the Rolling Stones needed you, not just as a guitarist, but also to be this galvanising figure that actually... You may have saved the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, I think without doubt. I have, on a few occasions, let me know. Well, it was a fragile ship when I joined, you know, because they'd been through many ups and downs, and there was a kind of a grey cloud.
Wow.
But at the beginning, you were a salaried...
Yes, Alex.
Hello. At the beginning, you were a salaried employee. So how long did it take then before you felt like a fully fledged member of the Rolling Stones?
Well, after an apprenticeship of 17 years, which I might add to all you struggling musicians out there, it just went by like that. Although it wasn't a labelled apprenticeship, you know, I felt out of respect that I would seep in by osmosis into the Stones world.
It's weird that you refer to them as them, not we.
Yeah, well, I still look at it from afar, you know, it's a bit like, it's very surreal for me to be in this unit that used to run home from school to watch on the telly, you know, I'm going to be in that band, you know, to actually be in the band.
Is it true that you were at a party and Mick Taylor literally... Mick Jagger was in the middle, Mick Taylor's here.
Jagger was here and
Yep.
Taylor was here, and Taylor leaned across and he said, I'm leaving the group. And I went like this, and Jagger said to me, what did he say? And I said, I think he said he's leaving the group. And he said, I really am. And he got up and walked out, and Mick said, what am I going to do? You know, have patience.
How soon after that moment were you in the studio with the Stones?
A year.
How did you feel doing your first gig with them?
Even though I knew the music, I'd never actually played the songs. So at Montauk, Keith and I hardly slept, and we kept going through the songs, and he was hitting me. OK, all down the line, here we go. And all these songs going through my head. And on June the 1st in Baton Rouge, in 1975, that was my opening gig, yeah. That was really, I said, come on, throw it at me, whatever you've got. And they did, and I went, what was that chord?
Here we go.
And in the deep end, it was great.
OK, you got Greatest Hits album out, celebrate the 50th anniversary. You've got a couple of new songs on that album, and you've also made... OK, Mick's still to come. Now, some people may have thought the Rolling Stones the harbingers of doom, but to sailors, it was another creature, the storm petrel.
Long before the shipping forecast, fishermen at sea relied on a small bird to warn them of impending storms.
To Mick Jagger.
Yay!
What would be your favourite spot in the UK?
The Scilly Islands looks absolutely lovely, doesn't it? I mean,
gorgeous.
You can't get any further west than that. And I've never been there. It looks great, though, doesn't it? Where else do I go in the... I don't know.
You like Wales, though?
Wales, yes.
Are you feeling fit, ready for the big gigs?
Yeah, I think I am. You never can really feel really ready, to be honest. It's not the Olympic Games, is it? Let's face
Now, there's been a lot of talk about these tickets. Value for money is required, Mick, like never before.
You'd be bored to death. It'd be so long. You'd be like, aren't they finished yet?
You know when you first get together, Mick, and you think, right, we're going to start rehearsing now for a big tour, you know, like you are now.
Yes.
Do you think, I wonder what cracks will appear this time?
When you're professionals, if there's cracks, you paper over them. That's what you do.
Yeah, but in terms of, you know, you're doing things now that you were doing at 19.
No, I'm not. I don't do those things anymore.
You're still fronting the
Let's
band,
run the
Mick.
video. I can't do that anymore.
You're still fronting the
please
band.
don't make me do those splits I used to do. No.
And do you worry about it at all, or do you think, you know, it'll be great?
Listen, you can't do what you, when you do at 19, you do things that you can't do when you're my age. I'm not telling you how old I am, you know already, but 50 years, it gives the lie to that, really. Well, I still try and make the show as energetic as I can make it.
Now, we've both been watching Crossfire Hurricane non-stop for about a week, haven't we? It's fascinating. One of the standout scenes was when you were being driven home from jail after spending a night there of a 3-month sentence in a Bentley with tens of thousands of people going, hey, you've been in jail. You're like, yeah, I've been in jail. This is my Bentley, by the way. How did that feel that morning?
It's very kind of blingy almost, isn't it? That was the 60s.
But that, I mean, I know you did some crazy things, but being driven home from prison in a Bentley...
That was my car.
OK, so you talked about getting no satisfaction, and in the film, Crossfire Hurricane, you talk about dissatisfaction. Let's have a look at that.
OK.
It's very easy if I feel very dissatisfied with something, I can write about that.
Why then, if you think that most of your work is about dissatisfaction and so on, why do you think you're so popular?
Because most young people are dissatisfied.
In what way?
With the generation which they think is running their lives.
What things are you dissatisfied?
The generation that runs our lives.
Did you ever see yourself as a political figure?
No.
No.
I was never very keen on joining political parties. You know, when I was at college, I was at a very left-wing college, and I never felt it. I felt the joining of it. You know, I like football. And I support Arsenal. I'm not a rabid supporter. I'm not really a kind of joiner, scarf wearer.
You say in the book 50 Years of the Rolling Stones and in the documentary, you say, you know, there was a time when a lot of people hated us and then suddenly everybody loved us, and it sort of stayed that way. And you say it happened just before you all turned 40. You thought, my goodness, we were anti-establishment. This is the beginning of us being establishment. Which did you prefer, being the anti-hero or the hero?
Well, you know, in a funny way, we didn't really have a choice, you know. It's like, OK, I'm going to be anti-hero now. Now I'm not going to be, you know. I had no real idea that our kind of slight scruffiness was going to turn into this anti-heroic act. In some ways, we were swept along with the tide, but we helped ourselves propel ourselves along with it.
So you've got to 50 years. But looking back over the 50 years, which decade of the Rolling Stones would you keep?
Would I keep? Well, all of them. I mean, it's
so
very hard to choose.
One, Mick.
Oh, you have to pick one. It's a quiz show. Do I get a prize?
Pick one. A, B,
You get another drink of water.
I think that, well, the 60s was, like, hilariously funny. It was a complete mess. But, I mean, the 70s was also, you know, very hedonistic and lovely. And
but 60s or 70s?
Some really good clothes.
Yeah, good clothes.
In the 70s, I've still got a lot of them.
Did you style yourself?
Yeah, I used to go to kind of shops and buy, you know, the maddest things. I used to have, then later in the 70s, I used to get designers involved, making even madder things, but yeah.
And you know the chaos and the conflict that's existed within the band. If things ran smoothly, you'd all get a bit bored, I suppose.
You get very bored. And also, when you're at the beginning of your career, you're always together all the time like kids and hang out, and then after a while, you don't want to be together, you know, except when you're working, you know. But so, you know, you get a lot of conflicts.
How bad did it get? Just tell us the worst moment.
Awful. Awful.
Awful.
There's a lot of groups a lot worse than this band. I mean, I hear these stories and I go, blimey, we thought our band was bad.
Like
this
who?
band, I mean,
Who?
there's so many of them. I mean, all these bands hate each other. Like, so many things. It's unbelievable. It's far worse than us.
Lots of people say that Keith is the one that kind of forces you to go back to work or go on tour or create a new album.
It's very funny. Would you hear that?
Well, that's what people have told us. Is that right, Mick?
No, not really.
It's not?
No.
Is it your decision, then?
I think, to be kind, it's a kind of group decision. And, you know, you all have to want to do it to some extent, you know. And I thought always that the 50th anniversary of the Rolling Stones was a good time to say, OK, so you want to do something. Does everyone want to do something? And what would that something be? And I would suggest that we just limit ourselves and don't take on like a 100-city tour. We just do something that, you know, a small bite of the biscuit and see how that goes.
All right, what about the 60th anniversary?
Yeah.
Well, the Queen's managed it. She had a good party. She had a good year.
She did have a very good year, and she stood for a very long time, and God bless her. So if you want me to stand there for hours and to, you know, while boats go by, I suppose I could do that.
You would do that.
I could do that.
In America as well before the end of the year, Mick Jagger, the Rolling Stones.